Today we're reacting to John Mayer's watch collection and talking watches number 2. This video is the reason why the yellow gold green dial Daytona is called the John Mayer. Let her have it, this is the big gun.
So we have a lot of Daytonas here. So the Daytona is a big part of what you do, what you love. We go through a few?
Yeah, absolutely. This is a 6265, so fairly later on into the lifespan of the Daytona.
6265 is the last reference number, the last generation of the manual wound Rolex Daytonas. Discontinued in 1988, the year after my date of birth. And I personally own this exact variation from 1987.
And of course there is a burning, passionate love for Arab branded dial Rolex, especially Daytona. And this has the Omani Khanjar, I believe they call it.
I don't have that exact variation. I'm not that rich.
This is another 6265.
Doesn't say Rolex anywhere on the dial.
It doesn't say Rolex anywhere on it.
Which is something that just would never happen today.
It would never happen today. So it represents somebody doing a custom order with Rolex.
Yeah.
You need to be extremely important and extremely powerful to get the name Rolex off the dial. I mean, that is insane ridiculous. And very often, these are the most collectible Daytonas in the world, hands down, because there's so little of them.
And they were in a trade. There were 3 Arab dial sport Rolexes in a trade.
For what?
For one Patek 5004.
To give you a wee bit of a background of the Rolex Daytona. The Rolex Daytona wasn't the first ever chronograph that Rolex produced. Rolex produced manual wound chronographs before. 6034, 6234. There's several chronographs that Rolex produced. However, if we look at the era of NASA, if we look at the era of the Speedmaster, Rolex needed a commercial watch, a watch that would rival the Speedmaster. Because the Speedmaster was going to the moon and, well, the Daytona was not going anywhere. The earliest variations of the Rolex Daytona we've seen in 1963, some of which do not even have Daytona on the dial. Reference number 6239 was the first ever reference number of the Rolex Daytona. Today, we still talk about the Rolex Daytona. It's insane that like over 60 years, it is still one of the most popular watches in the world.
As we're seeing Paul Newman Daytonas become astronomically high in value, I'm looking towards no nonsense non-Paul Newman Daytonas.
This is the Rolex Daytona reference number 6263 in yellow gold. I don't know if it's 14 or 18 karat. I have the 14 karat variation, which is the rarest of them all. The reason why they made this in 14 karat is because the import tax on gold was so high and Rolex needed to compete with other brands and sell their product in America. Selling that watch in 18 karat in America would make this watch significantly more expensive than its competition.
And these watches remind me of what it must have been like to have a brand new gold Rolex in 1985.
My Daytona dates back in 1978, and there's actually a video talking about this exact watch with the Swiss Watch Gang, which you can put up somewhere or whatever.
You got this guy as well, which trades being a Paul Newman for being something some might say is far more interesting.
And what is it?
It is a pulsation dial on the outer track used to measure beats per minute.
There are probably less than 10 of these that are verified as real known.
From all the vintage Daytonas I've seen, and I've seen a lot of them, that's my specialities, if you know what I mean, that is one of the rarest.
There's a few different variations of them, and we've seen like 2 or 3 of these, and that's it, of each variation. So this is a really special Daytona.
Pulsation means you can actually measure someone's pulse with that. You use any watch for that, but this doctor clearly wanted to use a Rolex Daytona for that. And asked Rolex to make a pulsation dial, which isn't too rare, but it's rare that Rolex actually done that.
New drop of IFL watches is here, the Veneziani Gold. My name is actually in that class. First time IFL watches has made a watch with them. A fully hand-painted dial. Venus, naked women, unbelievable. IFL watches on the case back. Watch is unbelievable. It's only available for 72 hours. They're very limited numbers, so hurry up, do not miss out. This is the new drop of IFL watches, and for sure, this is their best one yet.
So we're talking about the 6269 and the 6270. These are the original Rainbow Daytona.
There is differing takes on how many there were made of these. I've heard 8.
Right.
What have you heard?
So for the longest time I heard 8, then I heard 10, then I heard 8 again. So nobody has any idea.
And I have to tell you, this must have sat in a safe, because when a watch movement turns this crunchy, the teeth on these gears are brand new.
Yeah, that was really nerdy, and I love it.
I don't quite know who the target audience is. If you're just looking at the aesthetic, you could imagine, you know.
I remember the first time seeing that Rainbow Daytona, the modern variation, and I thought it was the worst watch I've ever seen in my life, to be honest. Can you imagine seeing all those colored stones and, oh, mate, horrendous. But yeah, then I had one on my wrist and thought, holy f***, this it's different. I've only had it on my wrist twice. It's definitely one of my goals to add a Rainbow Daytona to my collection. However, I need to save up a wee bit and not fuck up with cars.
The thing about them that when people see in person, they all kind of give in and go, yeah, I get it. And I remember referencing Jay Leno, you know? Jay Leno is a real inspiration as a collector to me because we used to go to Tonight Show performances, and Jay Leno's parking spot would have a different vehicle in it every day. And sometimes it would be like a 1920s fire truck.
Right.
And you started to learn after year.
Well, let's be honest, Jay Leno is top G and he hates Ferrari, so there we go.
Everything he wanted, and it would make sense because he was such an enthusiast. And I do believe that if you are a big enough enthusiast of Rolex, that you can understand the rarity of the piece and also the rarity of the thought behind creating the piece.
Absolutely.
I love this guy. You can't say anything bad about it, right? Like, it is a wee bit fucking nerdy, right? And it's how I like it. Ironically, I would argue to say we're the polar opposites. He is a musical genius. I am a fucking music dyslect, right? So that's one thing. He is skinny and fat. Well, that's another thing. But our taste in watches are so fucking similar. It's wild. This is the actual part of the video that made the yellow gold Rolex Daytona become the John Mayer.
Two modern Daytonas here that you think could be something special down the road.
Yes.
Keep in mind, this watch was going below retail. The watch was introduced in 2016, and after this video, the watch went through the roof. I remember this, I had a green dial yellow gold Daytona, 25k, and I couldn't sell it. That watch at a later stage went for over £100,000.
I believe it was 2016 that the ceramic bezel Daytona comes out. Rolex releases a white gold and a yellow gold Daytona with a blue and green dial, respectively. I just went, how does nobody notice this? And I bought this from a dealer, and he sent it to me, and he said, well, you're pretty crazy because I just found out that we can't get another one of these for a really long time, and people kind of want it. And I went, yeah, I know. So I believe if you're out there and you care about what my picks are, the green dial gold Daytona is still out there, still floating around, and it's the future thing that I think people are gonna go, why didn't we know?
This is why we call the green dial yellow gold Daytona the John Mayer.
And then you transition kind of quickly into Patek Philippe. And so when I think of you and when I first got to know you, Patek Philippe was what you were all about.
Yes.
And I think the first time I met you, you were wearing this watch, which I still think of as one of your watches.
5971, the very end of the Lamania base plate movement era of Patek Philippe.
Are you ready for some fucking details and stuff? The perpetual calendar chronograph was the first ever complication that Patek Philippe made for the public. So it was a watch that they publicly advertised. They made complicated watches before, however, they didn't really put it in a catalog. They really didn't advertise that. The first ever complicated watch Patek Philippe really advertised was a perpetual calendar chronograph, reference number 1518. Let me explain what a perpetual calendar chronograph is. A perpetual calendar is a calendar complication that tells you the day, the date, the month, the year, and if it's a leap year, yes or no. It also tells you the time, quite handy, and it probably has a moon phase as well. So a watch that will tell you every bit of detail mechanically, and also has a chronograph which you can measure time with. A really complicated watch. So I would argue to say that the perpetual calendar chronograph is the most important complication for Patek Philippe. It brought Patek Philippe to where it is today.
It is graduation day for Lamania movement era.
And let me explain Lamania. The 5970 is the last perpetual calendar chronograph where Patek Philippe used parts of other movement manufacturers. So that means that, well, movement wasn't entirely made by Patek Philippe. Actually, the funny bit is in 2006, Patek Philippe has produced their own fully integrated chronograph, meaning, well, they launched their first ever chronograph module that they made themselves. And the 5970 is the last Lamania-based perpetual calendar chronograph, meaning that this movement was partly made by a company called Lamania. 5270, however, the newer generation was fully made by Patek Philippe.
You know, remember, the 5970, like the 3970, has these American Courier typewriter font numbers. I love the American Courier typewriter font on a perpetual. It is 80s banker Wolf of Wall Street nonsense.
Yes, it really is.
And I really love it. I don't know about the lifestyle, but I think the aesthetic is really cool.
I love the lifestyle.
The power of the 5004 lies in how big the crown is with a pusher in the middle of the crown. It is stunning. When you show somebody the split-second timer function,
Let me explain what a split second is.
It is 9 a.m. in the morning, Nico.
Yeah, well, deal with it. When you push the pusher of a chronograph, the chronograph hand goes. This was used, of course, to measure distance, time, and, well, speed. This was genuinely used in a motorsport. Sometimes you need to measure two cars, and that's a problem when you have one watch. Well, not when you have a split second, because then there's an extra button that you push, and there's a second hand popping out from either underneath or on the top of the main chronograph hand. All of a sudden you have two chronograph hands. Does it make sense?
This is a salmon dial 5004 with my name engraved on the back.
At the factory.
At the factory.
Yeah.
I decided to go with Mr. J.C. Mayer. I felt that was very much in the Patek style. And the most interesting part about the watch is that I requested luminous hands. I would like to be able to see the watch on stage.
Right.
In the dark. I'd like to be able to read the time in the dark. And
Which is completely reasonable.
It's completely reasonable, and they agreed to it, and so I believe I have the only 5004 with luminous hands.
Yeah.
And so this is the first time I've shown off a piece unique.
A piece unique means there's only one of that watch, and that watch is unique. I actually have a piece unique, and I believe that I am the only person that has a full-blown world timer with a Jasper Bloodstone dial, which I'm very proud of, which I actually asked Patek to make, and they said no. Well, that's the difference in importance of John Mayer versus Nico. So as a non-watch guy, what do you feel? What do you think?
I think it's very nerdy. I can see you get excited.
Yeah, I get f***ing excited. I get a wee bit aroused. Like,
AP, about 10 years ago, put out their first concept. And since then, sort of been releasing these watches that are hyper-technical. They get their power from being a little different. And the watch I've worn the most, one of the watches I've worn the most, is the white ceramic GMT.
this is from an era where AP actually made cool f***ing watches.
Do they not anymore?
It's light, but it's big.
Yeah.
And much like this one, which is the latest purchase I've made of AP, which is the self-winding tourbillon. AP right now is on it with these watches. Much in the way that Richard Mille is, but with like 100 years behind it.
Like, I have so many questions I want to ask him about this. I love Ben, right? Ben is a nice guy and stuff, but Jesus Christ, he's sitting there like a sandbag, and he should be asking specific questions. The information needs to be translated to normal people. There are normal people that can buy these watches, but don't buy them because they don't understand the thing of what happens right here in this video. That should be changing.
I think a GMT is just the greatest. It's kind of cooler than a Daytona. Application-wise, a GMT is so exciting. It's world ready. It's like, let's go.
Yeah, it really is.
And I decided to have the engraved with a Grateful Dead Steal Your Face Steely on the bag.
That's
It was
awesome.
engraved upside down. A lot of engravers, when they engrave the back of a watch, believe that the crown being on the right would be the back of the watch, but that means the watch is upside down. How perfectly Grateful Dead is that?
I have no idea what they're talking about. I do know about the watch. That's the return of the Pepsi, and it was actually returned in precious metal, in white gold first. At a later stage, they brought it back in steel as well. I would argue to say that wasn't a really nice move of Rolex, but this is not the first iteration. It's actually the second iteration of the white gold Pepsi that came back. The first iteration actually had a really domed, darkish blue dial. This is the black dial.
5164A, travel time, Patek Philippe Aquanaut, Tiffany sign. And so this has become, for me, the watch you wear when you just want to wear a watch. And you don't always want to make a statement. And this has become kind of...
Well, he's losing the touch with reality a wee bit here. He's wearing a Patek Philippe and he doesn't want to make a statement.
go-to piece, you know? It doesn't throw anybody off, but it's still a Patek. It is a GMT.
And it is a Tiffany stamp, and it is a green strap, which is extremely, well, that watch is one of the most recognizable watches in the world. So you do make a statement with that.
This is the watch that you'd wear to symbolize that you got some other pieces at home, but that this is the one you're wearing out. And if you wanted to cheat, you'd just go buy this one. Wouldn't you think that someone wearing a 5164A, so look, if you just want to jump the line and you're watching this, get a 5164A, it's all you need, and everyone else will look at you and go like, you got some other pieces at home.
That guy gets it.
You're just being demure tonight.
Demure. He's being demure tonight. He is such a intelligent guy. I am wondering if he ever says in his life.
We have like 5 brain cells together here. And
like-
this guy's coming out with words like demure.
Yeah.
In 45 talking watches, no one has ever shown off their straps. These are 2 uncut, unused, what they call camo green, which is strange because it's not camo.
Yeah.
Think of all the
Watches tell so much about a person. If I see someone wearing a vintage Daytona, I say, fucking hell, that guy understands. That guy loves watches. That guy is a true enthusiast. When I see someone wearing something so fucking special, something that mainstream wouldn't pick up, but because I'm a watch guy, I recognize that. Fair play, lad. I'm listening to that whispering enthusiast inside me that wants to make a video with John Mayer, and let's make it happen.
PrideandPinion.com.
PrideandPinion.com.